it's the 4th day of VEDA, and I'm still going at it, so, like, pat on the back for me. Yeah, I just want to preface this video by saying that I am a cis female, and this video is supposed to be from a cis person to other cis people about a trans issue, if that makes sense. I don't want to seem like I'm trying to dominate a conversation about trans issues when I clearly don't have the experiences of a trans person, and I don't want to offend anyone by implying that in any way. So basically, I want to talk about this idea of using they, them pronouns in general and not assuming people's genders, and kind of using they, them as the default for situations. And I was just thinking about a conversation I had with someone once where they said it's almost assuming people's genders to use they, them pronouns when you're not sure of someone's gender. Because their idea was that if you see someone at Starbucks and you, like, see someone who looks cute and you say they look cute when they're clearly presenting in a feminine way or a traditionally feminine way, that you're disregarding their presentation as a female. And if they are a female identifying person, then you've offended them by disregarding that as part of their identity, I guess. And I don't really agree with that. I do think that if someone is presenting that way and they tell you that they identify as a female, then, like, yeah, you should use the pronouns that they want, which would usually be she, her, but not always. And I just think, like, the idea of not using they, them pronouns in general for that reason is kind of stupid, because even if you're right 99% of the time when you say she's cute or he's cute, you're still, like, you might come across someone who uses they, them pronouns, and even if you don't say anything to them, you're still misgendering them to yourself, and that's not really cool. And does it have an effect if you don't go up to them and misgender them? Not really, but it's still not really that much effort to just use they, them pronouns when you're not sure. And obviously, like, that's a very ingrained habit that we have of assuming people's genders, and I'm not saying that it's easy to stop assuming people's genders, and I really think that's an issue that I'm always going to battle, because I've been doing that for like 16 years until I was like, wait, no, that's bad. And then you start trying to work toward it, but you still have to fight that natural inclination to do that. But I just feel like we use they, them pronouns when we're not sure anyway, but it's just when we literally don't have anything to base our assumptions on. Like, if someone tells you that their teacher gave them a bad grade, and you would say, oh, what did they give you? Like, what grade did they give you? You're using they, them pronouns because you literally don't have anything to base your information on. So, like, you do that anyway. So we should just, like, teach ourselves to do that in situations where we do have some thing to base our assumptions on, but, like, assumptions are not great, so we shouldn't use them. So, like, I just think it's important to, like, use it in a general sense, even if it's hard and you're not used to it, and even if, you know, most people do identify with the gender that they're presenting as, I guess. Like, even if most people are that way, it doesn't justify you being unfair to the people who are not that way, because one day you might see someone who looks, like, super masculine, and you don't even, like, think for a second that they might not identify as a male, and you might, like, say something offensive to them, or you might just completely misinterpret them as a human being, and that's not fair. Like, I wouldn't like it if someone just decided that I looked too masculine to be a girl, so they started referring to me with he, him pronouns. Like, that's not fair. But if someone, for the sole purpose of not assuming that I identify as female, even though I do look pretty feminine most of the time, I would not mind if they approached me and said, like, hey, what are your pronouns? I think that's a question that we should ask more, because it's like, not everyone uses the pronouns that you would assume. I wouldn't be offended at all if people were asking me that on a regular basis, because I'd just be like, I use she, her pronouns. But if you initially refer to me as they, them at first, that's fine, because you just didn't know. And we use that as the default anyway. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I just, like, wish we were more integrative in our society, because, like, it doesn't make sense to just be unfair to some people because it's inconvenient for us to think about things for 3 more seconds. You know? It's just dumb. So yeah, that was just like an idea that I've been thinking about for a long time. So if you have thoughts on it, like, this is a very open topic. I don't feel like I have like the final say on this or anything, but those are just my thoughts. So yeah, you can talk about it in the comments if you want. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.